Good morning, everybody. Here's our scriptural thought for
By the
the
way,
day.
everybody, one important note before we get started here is I did some research this morning on how many prophecies in the Bible. And most of the scholars all believe that there's about 400 prophecies in the Bible. And guess how many didn't get fulfilled? Not a single one. Anyway, if you believe that any of these prophecies that you're going to see here or that you're going to watch, if you think any of these are not going to be fulfilled, as I joke with people sometimes, I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona I'll sell you. And yeah, also, I'll even throw in the Golden Gate Bridge. So anyway, there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever these are going to come true, and pretty soon now. Well, hello everybody. My name is Earl Piedmore, and I'm the owner of this YouTube channel. And most of the time I'm on in the morning, but it's evening, and you can see I'm in my nightly clothes. But me and a family member lately here have been kind of getting in a big discussion about all the governments of the world that are battling and carrying on, and this and that and the other. And as I mentioned before, I and my wife have been buried in that Bible since 1968. And one of my uncles was an elder in the Jehovah's Witness congregation in Port Orchard, Washington. And anyway, he's the one that got us started. But, like I say, I've been buried in that Bible for over 60 years now. But I know what's going to happen. And so many people in the world don't know this. They have no idea what's happening. But we are right in the middle of one of the most important things that you can understand. This situation that we're in now, according to the Bible and all the prophecies and everything, we are right at the edge of what's going to happen here. And out of curiosity, this morning I decided, you know what, I'm going to ask that Gemini gal, about this subject. And boy, I was shocked. I was amazed at what she came up with. And almost all of this does not come from the Jehovah's Witnesses, although she does recognize them. But anyway, I titled this little movie here, I titled it Jehovah Soon to Take Over. And here's what this Gemini gal says. And I'm going to read you the scriptures that she quotes too, so you can see that what she's saying is right. And anyway, here's what she says. She starts out. She says, when examining how God transitions control of the earth to his Son for a 1,000-year reign, biblical scholars generally look to apocalyptic and prophetic texts, most notably the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel, and the teachings of Jesus. While Christian traditions vary significantly in how they interpret these passages, and she's got parentheses, such as premillennialism, which I never heard of, and amillennialism, or the specific doctrines held by groups like Jehovah's Witnesses. And She goes on, she says, standard biblical scholarship outlines a common sequence of events derived from the scriptures. And here she's got number one, the interpretation of human governance. In other words, in parentheses, she's got the end of the present age, end of parentheses. Scholars note that according to biblical prophecy, in parentheses, such as Daniel 2:44, and I'm going to read you that. Daniel, let's get down here to Daniel, and chapter 2, verse 44 says, it's taken me a while to get this up. I'm using a split phone where I got two apps, one on each side, and then I got another phone over here that I've got the Bible on. So anyway, let's get down to verse 44. 2 verse 44 says, in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. And this kingdom will not pass on to any other people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, and it alone will stand forever. And then she closes the parentheses, and she says, God does not transition power through peaceful diplomatic transfer or gradual political evolution. Instead, prophetic texts indicate a direct intervention where God dismantles human political systems. In mainstream pre-millennial views, this culminates in the Battle of Armageddon, which I'm sure you've all heard of. And she's got in parentheses Revelation 16:16. So we'll look that up. And see if I can get back here. This doggone stand I've got this thing in. So it's Revelation 16:16. So I'm going to go to Revelation 16. And we're going to go to verse 16. You're going to have to be patient with me. You're working on 3 different devices here at the same time. 16 says, and they gathered them together to the place that is called in Hebrew Armageddon. And the original text, I think, pronounced that Harmageddon, but most Bibles nowadays, they all agree to Armageddon. And there's a footnote here, and it lists some other references. 22, however, Josiah would not turn away from him, but he disguised himself to fight against him and would not listen to the words of Necho, which were from the mouth of God. So he came to fight in the plain of Megiddo, which I'm not going to cover that anymore. It gets pretty confusing for everybody. So anyway, I'm going to go on with what she says. She says, where earthly powers gathered against God's sovereignty are decisively judged. In specific traditions like that of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is understood as a literal, universal destruction of all human governments and wicked systems by divine executive action, clearing a slate for a completely righteous society. And now she's got number 2. The removal of satanic influence. Before Christ begins his earthly reign, Scripture describes an active neutralization of spiritual opposition. According to Revelation 20, 1 through 3, and that I am going to go to, Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, Revelation 20, sorry. Revelation 20, verses 1 through 3 says, verse 1, "And I saw an angel coming down out of heaven with a key of the abyss and a great chain in his hand. He seized that dragon, the original serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and he bound him for 1,000 years." And verse 3 says, "And he hurled him into the abyss and shut it and sealed it over him, so that he would not mislead the nations any more until the 1,000 years were ended. After this, he must be released for a little while." And there's some footnotes there too. But anyway, I'm going to go on. And it says, "And an angel is sent down from heaven with a great chain to bind Satan and cast him into the abyss." Scholars point out that this is a vital prerequisite in biblical eschatology. With the primary instigator of deception locked away, the earth can experience a millennium characterized by absolute peace, unhindered by systematic evil or spiritual corruption. And then she's got number 3, the transfer of dominion to the Son. The legal and divine basis for Christ taking control is frequently rooted in Daniel chapter 3, verse 13 through 14. And we're going to go see that. That is Daniel. Let me get to Daniel 7, 13 through 14. And get down here to 13. 13 says, "I kept watching in the visions of the night, and look, with the clouds of the heavens, someone like a son of man was coming, and he gained access to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him up close before that one." And verse 14, "And to him there were given rulerships, honor, and a kingdom, that the peoples, nations, and language groups should all serve him. His rulership is an everlasting rulership that will not pass away, and his kingdom will not be destroyed." And she goes on, "Where the Ancient of Days," and she's got in parentheses God, "grants to," and she's got quotation marks, "one like a son of man, dominion, glory, and a sovereign kingdom that all peoples and nations should serve." In the New Testament framework, God the Father places all things under Christ's feet, designating him as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. In various interpretations, including historic Christian premillennialism and the distinct theology of Jehovah's Witnesses, this involves Christ physically or administratively intervening from heaven to establish a tangible global government over the entire earth. And number 4, the execution of the millennial reign. Once control is secured and transferred, the 1,000-year period, in parentheses, the millennium, begins. Biblical scholars note that this period serves distinct theological purposes depending on the denomination, to fulfill covenants and prophecies. Mainstream Christian scholars view it as the fulfillment of God's ancient promises to Israel and the nations, bringing physical restoration, ecological harmony, and righteousness to the earth. In parentheses, such as prophecies from Isaiah and Zechariah. A period of rule and upbuilding. In frameworks like that of Jehovah's Witnesses, Christ, along with co-rulers, and those co-rulers are those 144,000 that Jesus chooses from the earth to go up and reign with him, to help him reign, administers a paradise earth where survivors of the transition and, guess what, the resurrected dead are educated, judged righteously, and given the opportunity to attain human perfection. Ultimate resolution at the close of the 1,000 years after a final brief release and test involving Satan, the ultimate trajectory of Christ's delegated authority reaches into completion. As noted by Pauline theology in 1 Corinthians 15:24 through 28, and we're going to look that up. 1 Corinthians, get down here to it. We're going to find it here. Boy, I'm getting terrible about finding these scriptures, but we'll find it here. It's taken me a while. Sorry. Boy, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. 1 Corinthians. Sorry. 1 Corinthians 15. 24 through 28. Let's get down to 24. Oops, went right on by it. 24. Next, the end, when he hands over the kingdom to his God and Father, when he has brought to nothing all government and all authority and power. And 25 says, for he must rule as king until God has put all enemies under his feet. 26, and the last enemy, now guess what this last enemy is? Death, is to be brought to nothing. 27, for God subjected all things under his feet. But when he says that all things have been subjected, it is evident that this does not include the one who subjected all things to him. But when all things will have been subjected to him, then the Son himself will also subject himself to the one who subjected all things to him, that God may be all things to everyone. And she goes on, she says, after Christ has subdued all rule and authority, he hands the kingdom back over to God the Father. In other words, he says, here it is, Father, I brought it back where it should be. And she's got in quotation marks, that God may be all in all, ensuring that supreme eternal sovereignty eternally rests with Jehovah. And like I say, that's the end of what she says there. And I'll put this on the end of this little movie. I'll try and somehow get it, to where you can actually read it for yourself. Like I say, I was really shocked. I didn't believe that, so many Bible scholars knew this stuff. And, of course, we've known it for, quite a while. It's just that we've never known, how close we were until lately. In fact, I'm going to bring out a point that, even all of those that know what's going on in the world today, like Al Gore when he made those two movies, that the way things are nowadays, it's so bad that global warming and everything else is so bad that if it goes on much longer, we won't have an unlivable earth is what we'll have. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff lately being brought up about species and species of fish are floating up on shore. They're dead because of the different temperatures in the water from global warming. And coral was another thing. Coral is being destroyed all over the world, and from the temperatures of the oceans. And they say that there are thousands and thousands of species of fish and things that feed off that coral. And people just don't realize how bad things really are today. And I made a movie, another movie that you can go to my YouTube channel here. It's titled Our Sick Air. And I would really encourage everybody to go over and watch that after you've seen this. And you'll understand why Jehovah God is soon going to bring all this to an end. So anyway, everybody have a good evening. And I thought I'd get this done now while I was thinking about a lot of this stuff. So anyway, again, everybody have a good evening, and please comment. Put comments down there, and on what you think, and I'd appreciate it. Maybe you don't believe it, but whatever. So anyway, everybody again have a good evening.